Welcome everyone for the March 12th, the developer Helm developer call. Just want to remind you that this call is recorded, and if you do not want to be seen on camera, you can switch off your camera. Also, remember to follow the CNCF code of conduct. So when you're speaking or addressing others, do remember to be kind and all the jazz that comes with code of conduct. Cool. Let's start with announcements. Karen, floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm just dropping a note there to remind people if you are going to KubeCon in 2 weeks in Amsterdam, and you're available to help out to hang out at our booth, please do. We still could use a little more help on Tuesday and Wednesday. I think we're pretty well staffed for Thursday. Right now we just have oh yeah, we mostly have Terry and Evans. But yeah, if we could get help on Tuesday and Wednesday, that'd be super helpful. These will be the first half of each day. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Karen. Anyone else wants to show up? I don't think you need to be maintainer or anyone like that. I think you can, if you know Helm, just come and talk to folks. It's always fun at the booth. The next discussion item is, well, myself. So I've hit this a number of times. The issue I'm talking about here is in Helm 4, we have server-side apply enabled by default. And if you'd like to, in Helm 3, that was false, and whenever you wanted to use a force flag to replace resources on the server side, that would just work because it wouldn't conflict with SSA. But now with in Helm 4, there's a conflict there. So if you have server-side apply enabled and you want to replace, to use force replace, then you need to pass server-side apply to false. It just feels redundant if they always have to be used at the same time. So I'm just wondering whether that was intentional, whether we can just
the reason that you wouldn't want to use force conflicts. We could, so the concern would be there's if you disable server-side apply, then the objects are not going to be server-side managed, which is then going to either require converting the next time you upgrade. So then it's kind of like I'm curious as to what the workflow is.
So in how it works now, you either use force conflicts, and that would be telling server-side apply if there are any conflicts with the managers of certain fields, just, I'll take them over and that's fine. Helm would just take over those fields. But if you want to replace resources, actual resources in the server, on the server side, through calling HTTP put, that's what Helm does, you need to pass those two flags because server-side apply is always true. So you need to pass those two flags all the time. So it just felt redundant that both of them have to be passed all the time.
Yes, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is what's the ultimate goal, because force replace doesn't use server-side apply. I vaguely remember I thought I made an error for both of these to be present at the same time, but maybe I missed that.
So the current behavior is that if server-side applies true and force replace is passed, then there's an error and it bails. The outcome we want here is, regardless of server-side apply, we just want to replace whatever resource that's there. So it's a forced deployment of the same of those resources, not using SSA to try and merge a resource. It's just a replace.
So in that case, when you want to, you do have a way forward, you can do force replace and server-side false. And this is
Yeah,
the
exactly.
explicit way of doing what you're trying to say. I don't think we should disable implicitly server-side apply if someone does do force replace, because the expectation would be the user will be thinking they're getting server-side apply, but then they're not. If you want this workflow, I think you need to disable server-side yourself. But then I'm still curious as to why you want to do this rather than just force conflicts.
So in my situation, where I found myself here was instead of merging the resource, I needed to replace it. I think it was a was a CR, was a custom resource that had, no, not a custom resource. It was a resource that had PVCs it was an STS, yes. It had PVCs already deployed and I needed to replace them. Anyway, I can get into details of that. I probably should write up an issue so that it's easier to have those discussions there. And it's, you get to see the actual manifest and my use case described better there. But yeah.
I guess I'm curious if there's a reason why we do want to replace objects rather than server-side apply, then sure, we should probably tease that out. If it's just like, can I do force replace, then yes, you can by just specifying server-side false.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gives a good enough answer.
Yeah, no, I just found it redundant, always having to pass both flags. But yeah, that's good enough. I think we can flesh that out even more in an issue in a issue in Helm.
Sounds good.
Cool. That was me. Terry, I think that you're next.
Yeah. I just wanted to float the idea of possibly releasing a new major version of Helm in November, I guess, if that's at all possible. And the reason I wanted to do this is I've been working on a new major version of Oris Go. Supports a lot of the config stuff that we wanted to roll into Helm. And I don't want to deliver another version, release an upgrade of Oris Go without a major Helm version, based on what happened last time, which was kind of a disaster. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of throw the idea out there. I'm kind of dev complete on the Oris Go, but it's going to take me months probably to build consensus and get it all merged. So I was thinking I'd be done by July or something like that, and then could start working on this and maybe deliver in November. So that'd be like a year since our last major version. Anyway, any thoughts on that?
Helm 4 was quite a big deal because it was such a long time since Helm 3, and therefore there was also a lot of impetus to try and get everything done and make a lot of progress. I think it's a general question to the project: should we aim to do more lighter weight major version releases? I would agree with this. Like, each major version doesn't have to be a whole year-long project.
I'm very
I think it's
looking
probably
forward to see what it's but I still a question of do we do it very so fast? That's always the question. And 1 year still.
Andrew, there was quite a bit of background noise there, so we didn't hear quite a bit of what you said. Maybe you could type it in chat if that's all right.
So one thing that I'll add about doing while he's doing that, the new, anytime you do a new major version, because so many people use what we have, then you have to support two versions overlapping. Like we're supporting with version 3 and version 4 today. So anytime we do that, we'll need to have those overlapping supported versions because it takes people time to switch basically, right? And you have both CLI users who are using it in CI systems and other things, and you have people who are using the SDKs. And for all those breaking changes, they've got to account for that in their own code, come back with bugs and feedback, and that takes a while. So stuff like this adds extra work on the Helm team to do every time we do that. And that's, just something that we need to plan for every time. And normally we give a good healthy overlap because there's so many enterprise users that even with the overlap we're giving of a year, I've already got complaints. People have personally contacted me to complain that it's not long enough with a year on Helm version 3 getting security support and all of that. It needs to go longer, right? And asking about going longer. To which I've actually suggested other people are okay carrying patches and doing their own releases the way some companies and stuff do. But it's that kind of thing is there's extra logistics. It's not just do a 5 and then keep going into a 6 and keep going because you're making breaking changes and those breaking changes are things you need to take into account, right? Some of the users out there of Helm will have cycles where they do an evaluation for 3 or 4 months with a major change before they're even willing to adopt it in their pipelines. So not only do they've got to get approval through some testing processes internally, and then they can start to incorporate it. And, then you've got a bunch of people who during certain seasons, like the holiday seasons, they won't be making any changes. You add some of these things to the schedules, you can get a lot of variance there. So just know whenever we do it, it's not something you really want to do every year because it's going to add that extra layer of maintaining things all the time. But I also think going 5 and 6 years is far too long as well. So even though I say that, it would be really nice if something happened every 2 or 3 years. We did a major release and we're able to make those breaking changes. That would be nice. Something between every year and every 6 years would be really, really nice. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, man, you took the words out of my mouth. Sorry, it's on the train of time, but yeah, I love the idea of getting a new version out. However, especially coming from an enterprise perspective, getting any new binary and approved is not a short period. And if we look back at Helm 4, it was in November. In many organizations, that was a change freeze. So they didn't even start looking at Helm until January, mid-January, for like a month out. So I want to put out there that I'm with you, Matt. 2 to 3 years is a much more better time frame in terms of getting releases out and typical cadence.
The point that I'd like to add to this is uh, if you had a lot of people complaining this time and you have it on this 1 year cycle, I would expect that less and less people would be complaining the second or third time just because they're used to the schedule and they've already planned their team around it. So personally, I think 1 year versus 2 years, not a whole lot of a difference because I know that my team will adapt to it.
Yeah, I know enough other teams that won't because Helm isn't a major thing. It's a minor thing in what they do. And the more work we put on them, to deal with changes is stuff that they're going to complain about. It adds extra business work for them, dealing with major changes, breaking changes, those kinds of things. I look at what we had to do at SUSE where I'm at and the amount of work and things like that. So I can see I do get that feedback where it's that added extra work. And it's not a primary, it's something that Helm is used, but it's not a primary part of the business or the normal coding or other work. It's ancillary. So that's also where I look at it too. And I look at some of our customers and I look at other companies that I've talked with or people who've pinged me in the back channel who they just, when we say it, I bet you the majority of Helm users have not picked up Helm 4 yet. And we are in March of 2026, right? We're 4 months later. And I bet you the majority of Helm users haven't even picked up Helm 4 yet. just because of that life cycle. So if you did it once a year, you're going to have people 2 major versions back still using it. They will not have transitioned. Some people will wait till that last minute of transitioning. So we'll end up with people 2 major versions back still using it. Well, last time I looked at it was about 2 years ago. I still had access to numbers that would give me insight on Helm v2, and we had users. So you're going to have some people who use these things forever. You're going to have some people who move right away. But in a lot of the cloud native enterprise space, you'll have some who move just at a slower speed than the more bleeding edge stuff. And how do we support? What do we do there? How do we want to handle that needs to be taken into account.
Everyone wants to do. I mean, a lot of people don't like the fact that you have to bump Kubernetes versions every 3 months. But you do. I agree. We don't want to unnecessarily increase the burden. I do think we did a pretty good job with Helm 4 as to making it semantically compatible. Actually, semantics wrong word. Good. Workflow compatible with Helm 3. So the upgrade process is relatively straightforward, hopefully for most folks. And I periodically search to try and find complaints about the process. And I haven't seen a lot of complaining out there on the internet. Helm 4 was annoying to get to, or et cetera, et cetera. But I agree there's a balance between fast and
There's comparing to Kubernetes is a little hard to do, because with Kubernetes miners coming out, you typically have working backwards compatibility. You can just upgrade and it works because it's not a breaking change, right? It's not like when we did Kubernetes, 15, 16, back in that time, where they started turning off major APIs that people were using that they didn't have a lot of time. Usually you don't have those breaking changes. And when you have those breaking changes and they're untested, people tend to use older versions. There's a lot of people who use versions of Kubernetes that are outside of the community support cycle because they're just so slow at it. And this is with an environment that's usually backwards compatible. Helm major versions are backward breaking changes for people like SDK users and even CLI users. It can affect them. And so because it's a breaking change, that's not a clean upgrade for them. So every so often you're saying, we're going to make you do work for an upgrade. That's usually more painful than a Kubernetes upgrade.
I think we all agree. I think probably the best option is for us to write down our thoughts on how we want to manage upgrade cycles and how to decide on the best timeline.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a non-complex. Sorry,
I
nonsense
guess,
discussion.
I guess one other thought, this Oars Go release is more of a superset than it is a change on that end. So potentially we could deliver it as in without a major release. But anyway.
So do we open up a doc, I guess, or a discussion around that? Helm 5, or basically how we release major versions, or what's a conclusion here?
I think my take would be, if Terry really, really wanted Helm v5, then he could probably start that talk. Otherwise, the person who wants Helm v5 probably wants to start writing down that proposal. That would be my take, unless someone volunteers.
Yeah, I'd be up for a proposal for a Helm v5. Realize with Helm v4, we can add a ton of features in as long as we don't break the APIs. So features can be layered in all over the place as long as things are backwards compatible. So what breaking changes would somebody want to do for a Helm v5? Starting with a list somewhere, so for discussion, would be fantastic. I'd love to know the breaking changes, not the new features.
I guess that's an interesting way to look at it. If there is something that's being introduced that will break, then that starts a conversation of a major release. But otherwise, it's work as usual.
Otherwise, it's minor releases. You can do new features in minor releases as long as you're not breaking back, as long as you're not making a breaking change. So there's a ton of things that we can do in Helm version 4 without making a breaking change. What are the things that somebody wants to do that's a breaking change, which is what would necessitate Helm v5?
I guess one solution I could propose is we get our automated functional tests with various registries rather, going before releasing Helm with a new version of Oris Go. And then that should solve the problem. I already did the changes for the Oris CLI to upgrade to the V3 Oris Go, and the changes are minimal because if you don't use the features, there's not much difference really. Anyway, so I think we could just have a future discussion on this kind of in general.
Yeah, and my general philosophy, and we probably didn't do this very well in some of Helm's internals, is when we use a system like this, we should probably wrap it with our own APIs. So that way we can keep our own APIs the same and change the internals, change Oris versions, all of those things without affecting our APIs. And then, if you're functionally equivalent, and then if you're doing something additive, then we can, swap out auras, swap out even whole other components. And if our APIs don't change or we're just adding things, then that's fine to do in minor versions.
There's also a slightly more insidious pattern where you just drop using the old code, which captures the existing visual chorus, and you just create a new package. And Helm internally can start using the new package, and you won't break clients, but you effectively have dead code in the Helm repository until we do a migration. That's an option, at least. It's not the best option, maybe. But
if our Go APIs don't change and the functionality in Helm doesn't change and the CLI doesn't change, but you change a major version of Auras, that's fine to do in a minor version.
I guess yeah, I think Terry, you should have enough to go with now, right? Awesome. George, you have
another since there's been basically a quick announcement saying that there will be some security patches coming up. And also I retrospectively added Scott's patch version releases to the announcements. So for folks on the call, that was version 3.20.1 and version 4.1.3 were released yesterday. And to note, version 4.1.2 doesn't exist because of a build issue.
Thanks, George. Andrew Shaw, hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just that HIP for exposing Helm history during templating. And yep, just looking for comments on it. Happy to answer any questions anybody has.
I do see some requested changes from Scott, but I guess he's not on the call to comment. Right, I think we don't have any shout outs, no social media amplifications. So assignments. Moderator? Anyone next week? Next week is KubeCon, actually.
No, it's the week after.
It's the week after, sorry. Yes.
Which we should probably, if we have consensus, we might want to cancel the next one unless we feel like people will be on the call.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think we
okay, I'll put a note in for next week. Yeah. Are we just deciding it?
Okay, maybe we can discuss that next week.
Okay, I'll add it to the agenda for next week.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I should be able to moderate, so I'll put my name down.
Thank you, Clary.
You can do notes again. I mean, I can do notes again. It was being Terry this week.
Cool. Issue triage peer review. Oh, you added yourselves. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, George. I think I'll add myself there as well. Anyone else? If not, yeah, we are at the top of the hour, so I guess we can wrap the call. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice week ahead. See you next week.
Thank you. Just.
Cheers. Bye.